All right, good evening, everyone. I will call this Tiger City Council and Town Center Development Agency meeting to order. City Recorder Krager, would you please conduct a roll call?
Councillor Schlack.
Here.
Councillor Shaw.
Here.
Council President Wolf.
Here.
Councillor Anderson.
Here.
Councillor Gudusi.
Present.
Youth Councillor Hellick.
Here.
Mayor Hu.
Yeah.
Councillor Robbins.
Here.
All right, thank you. Will everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, city teammate and council, do you have any non-agenda items?
None from us, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing none, let's move on to the next section, which is public comments. The public comment period provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the city council. While it is not a dialogue, either I or staff will follow up to address the issues brought forward in these comments. The calling number is 503-966-4101, and those wishing to comment should call now to get in the queue. Those wishing to comment during the public hearings for agenda items 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 should wait to call in until the agenda item is announced to phone in. Anyone present wanting to comment should sign up on the public comment form at the front of the room. First one is a written comment. We received one written comment by noon of yesterday, and it was requesting the city prevent the use and access of flock safety automated license plate reader cameras. And let's move on to the in-person public comment.
We
all right.
have none, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Okay, let's move on to phone in on video. Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue for either the phone or video testimony?
No callers, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Van. Let's move on to City Manager report. Acting City Manager Trish will give a brief report. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a slide. Great, thank you very much. As we welcome the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Fire Horse, we extend our warmest wishes to all who are celebrating in Tigard and throughout our region. Lunar New Year is one of the most widely celebrated holidays in the world and marks the beginning of the lunar calendar, with traditions centered on renewal and welcoming good fortune for the years ahead. There are many ways to celebrate with your community here in Tigard, including at Bridgeport Village, Saturday, February 21st, 11 a.m. to 2, as well as at businesses around town. I do want to make a special mention that Mayor Hu will be kicking off festivities at the Washington Square Mall on February 28th to share a few words and present the official Lunar New Year proclamation. This event is 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the mall's Summit Court. And these events bring the community together for incredible cultural traditions like the White Lotus Lion Dance, while driving foot traffic to our local businesses. And so we encourage the community to take part in these local events that celebrate culture, tradition, good fortune, and the promise of the year ahead. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Acting City Manager Trish. Let's move on to a consent agenda. The consent agenda is used for routine items. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight, we have one consent item, a resolution of support for the city's pursuit of a 2026 Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development, also known as BUILT, federal grant for the Southwest 72nd Avenue Improvement Project, which is from 99W to Dartmouth Street in the Tiger Triangle.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
The motion has been presented and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The consent agenda is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is legislative public hearing. Ordinance amending TMC 5.20 liquor license application process. I will open the public hearing, and anyone who wish to testify on this ordinance change, please call, phone or video, or please call in, or you can come here in person. If you want to testify, please call in now to get in the queue by calling 503-966-4101. And our senior planner, Lindor, will give the staff's report. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Hu and Council. My name is Agnes Lindor, Senior Planner in the Community Development Department. The item before you tonight is a public hearing to amend the Municipal Code Chapter 520, which is liquor license applications. So our current code states that the police chief is the sole representative of the city to review and make recommendations on liquor licenses. Adding a designee would allow for another representative to fill in this role when the police chief is unavailable. Therefore, staff recommends that the City Council adopt the amendment to Chapter 520 to add the designee for liquor license reviews. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So we have received no written comments for this item by noon yesterday. Mr. Van, are there any caller in the queue to testify on this item?
No callers.
Thank you. City Recorder Krager, has anyone signed up in person? There hasn't been none, so there's no response by staff. But before I close the public hearing, are there any questions? Just questions only from staff, from council members. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any discussion or motion?
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-01.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
I think Heather had a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead, discussion.
Just a quick question. What is the legal difference between will and shall? Because this is also changing all the shalls to will, and I don't know the legal definition difference.
Our city attorney will be happy to jump in.
Good evening, Council. So in terms of the legal difference, there is none in terms of that it is mandatory. In terms of why we use will rather than shall, because shall is very often used incorrectly in legal documents. And so it has been a quest of Tigard's for at least since I've gotten here, at least since I've been here, to rid the code of the word shall, because it is often used incorrectly. It is much easier to misinterpret than will. Will is just much clearer and easier to understand.
And I also think that as part of, making the city more accessible to the public, all our documents should be written in plain English, right? I mean, how often do you read a piece of document that says shall in it? I don't, and I'm a lawyer, so so it's just an effort to make it more accessible for everybody. So.
That makes sense to me. How could you misuse the word shall? Like, does it mean something other than, like, I think it means you will do something, right? So I'm just curious, since you said it is often misused, so.
So I'd be happy to follow up. This actually is a trend. The American Bar Association and other legal entities are moving in the direction of getting rid of the word shall. So I have plenty that I can follow up with you on.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If there's none, will the city recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 26-01, an ordinance amending Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 520, regarding the recommending body for liquor licenses.
Will the city recorder conduct a roll call vote, starting with the youth counselor for an advisory vote?
Youth Councilor Hellick,
Aye.
Councilor Slack,
Aye.
Councilor Shaw. Aye. Council President Wolf. Aye. Councilor Anderson.
Aye.
Councilor Goducy.
Aye.
Mayor Hu.
Yes.
Councilor Robbins.
Aye.
All right, ordinance number 26-01 is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. All right, let's move on to the sixth item on the agenda, which is a legislative public hearing. Ordinance adopting Tiger Municipal Code, Chapter 14.24, demolition of structures. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that want to testify by phone or video or in person may call now to get in the queue. If you want to testify by person, please sign up. If you want to testify by phone or video, please call 503-966-4101. And again, our senior planner Lindor will give the staff's report.
Thank you again. Just for the record, my name is Agnes Lindor, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. This public hearing before you tonight is for a new municipal code chapter, 1424, the demolition of structures. Slide, please. So it has been the city's longtime practice to regulate demolition and issue permits for this type of work. This was covered under the Oregon Specialty Code, which is the building code. It has been removed from and is no longer regulated by the building code. Local jurisdictions can still elect to regulate demolition permits. However, local authority through the municipal code has to be established. So this would allow and ensure that the city still reviews demolition permits to make sure that they're performed safely in a manner that protects public facilities and maintains public health. Slide, please. So in order for the city to continue to process the demolition permits, this would establish local authority to allow us to do that. I did want to touch on a comment that was submitted by Mayor Hu. It is a change to must from shall, and it's highlighted in the document before you, so you can take a look at where that was. The other question was related to the expiration of demolition permits, and they follow the same expiration schedule as a regular building permit, and this is also included in section 1424.070C. Slide, please. So staff's recommendation would be for council to adopt the new municipal code chapter 1424, demolition of structures. Next slide, please. So this concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer questions, and I also have Mark Van Domelen, who's our building official, if you have any questions for him.
Thank you, Senior Planner Lindor. There were no written testimony received by noon yesterday. Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue to testify on this item?
No callers, Mayor.
City Recorder Krieger, has anybody signed out to testify in person?
No one has signed up.
All right, so now I open up the floor for council member for question.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-02.
All right, just a second, Councilor Gudusi has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Do you know what the differences are from what it was with the Oregon Specialty Code to what we're proposing here? Is it generally the same or have things changed?
I will defer to Mark Van Domelen on that question, if he could come up.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. I'm Mark Van Domelen. I'm the building official for the city of Tigard and work under the Community Development Department. There's really no difference in how the demolition permit is regulated. For a number of years since the State Building Codes Division, the Attorney General basically said that demolition permits are not under the jurisdiction of the State Building Code. And so we have issued demo permits only in order to send records to the county so that they could be removed from tax records. So we've done an administrative permit for a few years, but it didn't meet the needs of making sure that utilities were capped properly, that the building was actually removed safely and completely from the site before new construction began. But there really would be no difference in the way we historically it issued demolition permits.
Thank you, Mark. Any follow-up question? Go ahead.
Yes, and in terms of looking at the scope, from what I remember, it was basically anything that you're building that requires a permit would then require a demolition permit to destroy. Is that correct?
If a structure exists that they're going to remove completely is when a demolition permit, if they're just removing interior walls or altering an existing building, we wouldn't do that under a demolition permit. That would be an alteration permit to demo interior walls or something like that. But to completely remove the building, it actually retires the address when a building is demolished, and then the new construction would come in under a new address and completely, but it has to be a complete demolition to be a demolition permit.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification. That was really my underlying concern was if you have repairs, things like that, within the house, you're demolishing things, but, so, thank you.
Any other question? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we already have a motion by Councilor Schlack. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councilor Shaw. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will City Recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 26-02, an ordinance adopting a new Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 1424, demolition of structures regarding the processing of demolition permits within the city of Tigard.
Will the City Recorder conduct a roll call vote, starting with the Youth Councilor for an advisory vote?
Youth Councilor Hellick,
Aye.
Councilor Schlack,
Aye.
Councilor Shaw,
Yes.
Council President Wolf,
Aye.
Councilor Anderson,
Yes.
Councilor Gaducy,
Aye.
Mayor Hu,
Yes.
Councilor Robbins.
Yes.
Ordinance number 26-2 is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is another legislative public hearing. Ordinance adopting Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 14.28 for temporary certificates of occupancy. I will open the public hearing. Anyone who want to testify by phone or video, please get in the queue now by calling 503-966-4101. And if you want to testify in person, you may sign up now on the sign-up sheet on the front. Senior Planner Lindor will again provide the staff report.
Again, for the record, Agnes Lindor, Senior Planner in Community Development. The hearing before you tonight is a new chapter also to the Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 1428, Temporary Certificates of Occupancy. Next slide, please. So the city has also had a longstanding practice of reviewing and issuing temporary certificates of occupancy based on our internal processes that are not currently codified in the code. Issuance of these certificates are done by the building official with input from both engineering and planning divisions. And currently they're managed outside of the permitting system. Slide, please. So again, our TCO process is based on our internal processes and procedures that are not part of any of the municipal code. And so therefore, this new chapter would codify our existing processes, and it would also provide clear direction to applicants regarding the approval process, the approval criteria, as well as expirations. And then these will, moving forward, will be tracked within our permit software. I did want to mention the comment from Mayor Hu that was to revise section 14.28.070A, which read, if the applicant does not meet the approval criteria general provisions is incomplete, to, if the applicant does not meet the approval criteria or general provisions of this chapter or is incomplete. It reads more clearly, so I've updated that and it's highlighted in the document in front of you. Next slide, please. So with that, staff recommends that City Council adopt the new Municipal Code Chapter 1428, Temporary Certificates of Occupancy. Thank you. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senior Planner Lindor. There were no written comment received for this item by noon Monday. Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue to testify on this item?
No callers.
Thank you. City Recorder Krieger, has anyone signed up in person to testify?
No one signed up.
All right, councilors, do you have any questions for staff? Councilor Gudusi.
Mayor, I would recommend we amend the title to spell certificates correctly.
Okay, now just for question.
Not for question. Thank you.
All right.
Can we do that?
We'll go to the discussion part. We'll give you all the time. Any just questions right now? Councilor Shaw.
A question, just what is the application fee? How much is that?
So it's based on evaluation. If it's $500,000 or less in project valuation, it's $300, and if it's more, it's $600.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no question, I will close public hearing and ask council consideration. Councilor Gudusi.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-3 with the amendment to spell certificates correctly in the title, if that's the proper.
Is that good enough, City Attorney?
Great.
Okay.
I'll
Good enough.
second.
All right, we have a motion with a slight amendment and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the city recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
I missed the second.
All right,
Oh, thank you.
Council President Wolf, yeah.
Got it. Ordinance number 26-03, an ordinance adopting a new municipal code, chapter 14.28, temporary certificates of occupancy, regarding the processing of temporary certificates of occupancy applications within the city of Tigard,
With the amendment proposed by,
as amended.
yeah, okay. Will city recorder conduct a roll call vote, starting with the youth councilor for an advisory vote?
Youth Councilor Hellick. Aye. Councilor Slack.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Council President Wolf.
Aye.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Gudusi.
Aye.
Mayor Hu.
Yes.
Councilor Robbins.
Yes.
Ordinance number 26-03 is adopted as amended by a unanimous vote of the council. All right, let's move on to the next public hearing, which is planning fee schedule updates. I will open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to testify on this item, please call 503-966-4101. And if you want to testify in person, please sign up at the sign-up sheet at the front of the room. Again, Senior Planner Lindor will present the staff report.
Again, for the record, Agnes Lindor, Senior Planner in the Community Development Department. The item before you tonight is to adopt amendments to the citywide fee schedule. Slide, please. So citywide fee schedule is adopted annually, and it's effective July 1st of each year. Updates occur sometimes outside of the regular update cycle. For example, when a new application is established through a code update. Periodically, staff also reviews fees to ensure cost recovery, as well as that the fees are equitable based on the application type. Slide, please. So I'll speak to a few of the updates included in the packet. The first one is the archive fees. The city currently has 4 archive fees, which are used to basically maintain the record for the city. And currently, the 4 that we have don't align very well with the application types. So the proposal is to revise the fees to 5 archive fees to make it more equitable based on the complexity of the application type. So that's the first one. The next one is the temporary certificate of occupancy. So currently, the building, there is a 1 fee. So I misspoke. I was quoting the fee for the TCO that's proposed. So the current fee is just a flat rate of $300. That's collected by the building division. This proposal would make this a two-tiered approach based on the valuation of that $500,000 project threshold. And then similarly, the demolition fee right now is overly complex. It's based on 8 valuation thresholds, which are used for permits that are like additions or alterations. It's all lumped into the same one. So the proposal tonight would be to simplify that approach also to a two-tiered approach based on valuations. And then lastly, there were some legislative fees that were inadvertently removed from the fee schedule. These are being added back in because we still have these applications, and so we need to have the fees there. Slide, please. So with that, staff recommends that City Council adopt the amendments to the city-wide fee schedule as presented. Next slide. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. No written comments were received for this item by noon Monday. Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue to testify on this item?
No callers in the queue.
Thank you. City Recorder Krieger, has anyone signed up in person to testify on this item?
We had no one sign up.
All right, thank you. Question, councilors. Councilor Schlack?
Thank you, Mayor. Would you be able to, 2 questions. Would you be able to explain what legislative amendment applications entail, because I'm not familiar with them? And then would you be able to confirm if $20,000 fee for external applicants was what the fee amount was before it was inadvertently removed from the fee schedule?
Yeah, so legislative amendments would be basically like updating our development code, updating development regulations, which is typically initiated by either council or staff. So a good example would be the MADE project. It was a legislative project. This also includes rezoning properties or changing comprehensive plan designations. I'm not exactly sure what the fee was at the time when it was removed. The fee that's proposed now is meant to similarly align with kind of the plan development fee, because it requires 2 public hearings, noticing, and it's just a larger process. And so it just accounts for staff time drafting amendments or doing any other kind of work that would need to be presented to council and planning commission.
I guess I'm just having a bit of sticker shock compared to some of the other fees there. But do other similar jurisdictions in Washington County have fees that are at that order of magnitude generally?
I'm going to ask if Assistant CCD.
Sorry, I'm going in on this one.
Good evening, Mayor Hu and City Councilor Skylar Warren, Assistant Director of Community Development. So I do recognize that $20,000 for an application seems a bit like sticker shock. It is in line with the types of applications that would come before Planning Commission and Council. So plan developments, larger subdivisions. So it is not out of scale with those. And as Senior Planner Lindor said, it reflects the city's relative investment in processing those applications. We actually landed a little bit lower on this one because we just felt like we wanted to be a little bit fair. We wanted to be safe. But it certainly is the case that any legislative project is going to require a copious amount of staff time in order to prepare it, because there are the findings. There are not just regular findings with our code. There are findings for compliance with statewide planning goals, with the Metro code, and there's just a lot of noticing. There's a lot of public involvement in that. So $20,000 is a low fee. It's a generous fee for that type of work.
Thank you.
Councillor Shaw?
Thank you. You had mentioned that temporary certificates of occupational occupancy fees are updated to account for the time spent by all 3 divisions. Am I reading it correctly then? It went from, there's 300 and then 600? Does that account for all 3?
Yeah, so each division would be either getting the 100 or the 200.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Gudusi?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you please explain to me what the archive fees are?
Gladly. So in land use, there are retention requirements under state law. So most land use requires permanent retention. So in order to prepare files for permanent retention, the archive fee is charged to the applicant. Archiving involves both significant amounts of staff time in order to prepare the files for archiving, to actually do the scanning of the files into the permanent record, and then we contract with an outside agency who does scanning for the large format files. There is then also the storage, which is, again, permanent retention. This is a one-time fee. It is, I feel very safe in saying this city is not really recouping its long-term costs for the storage of these materials permanently through these fees. And as Senior Planner Lindor said, we recognize, part of the reason that we made these changes is we recognized food carts, for example, were getting charged an archive fee that was in excess of the actual application fee for the food cart. So what we have done with these amendments is try to true that up and set the fees relative to the amount of paper involved and the amount of work involved in preparing those files and retaining them permanently.
And do you have a ballpark estimate of what some of these fees would be? Because I didn't see any sort of, how much is it?
The archive fee is on page 1, I believe.
The proposed ones, yes.
I think they're at the very top.
The proposed ones are at the very top.
Got it, so
This
that
is
would be like
page
the
27.
photocopies, attorney time, et cetera?
Did you find them, Councilor Gudusi? They're page 27 of 56. And I thank Councilor Schlack for getting me there quicker.
I think that's where they are. I wanted to confirm that's where we have a bunch of archive fees.
So it will start with archive, well, you'll see some strike through archiving fee, and then it'll say temporary sign A, B, C, and D, and then the numbers are $10, $36, $150, $250, and $450 for the most complex cases.
Thank you. I now see. I appreciate it.
Councillor Shaw?
So just one follow-up question on the planning review building permits, the residential, detached, the row house, the quad, the cottage cluster courtyard units, those are all new fees?
No, so they actually moved. They were embedded in the land use application, so we just, we changed the name because development code review wasn't very intuitive. So we changed the name to planning review of building permits, and it is after all of the land use applications are listed. So those fees are,
To change?
yes.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will,
We have one more.
oh, go ahead, Councillor Gudusi.
Last one, thank you. And can you explain what the parking lot tree canopy fee is?
Yes. So this one is one of the ones that Senior Planner Lindor mentioned was inadvertently left out in previous fees and charges schedules. So under the Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities rules at the state, which are essentially a section of the OAR that governs transportation planning, sometimes called the Transportation Planning Rule. When those administrative changes were made to implement the CFEC parking lot requirements, the city was allowed 3 options to offer to developers to meet the canopy requirements. The first was they could provide 40% tree canopy. The second is that they could provide a certain amount of solar to offset the parking lot. And the third was they could pay a fee. The city of Tigard opted to provide developers with an option for all 3. And the fee associated with that, which is set by state law, was inadvertently left out of our fees and charges schedule. And we do have finally a developer that wants to use that, and so we want to make sure that, we have it in our fees and charges schedule.
And I noticed some of the new fees are effective today is because it's not going to ordinance, so it can be effective immediately, right, without the 30-day waiting period. All right, just wanted to make sure. So I will close the public hearing. Now it's council consideration of resolution number 26-07.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 26-07, amending the citywide fees and charges schedule, which was adopted under resolution number 25-20 and subsequent amendments.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution number 26-07 is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. All right. Let's move on to the next item, which is a legislative public hearing. Ordinance amending Tigard Municipal Code Chapter 7.4A regarding special event permits. I will open the public meeting. Anyone who wants to testify on this item by phone or video, please call in at 503-966-4101. And if you wish to testify in person, please sign up at the sign-up sheet in the front of the room. And this time will be City Attorney Rihala who will give the staff report.
We'll mix it up a little bit. Good evening. So this ordinance really makes 2 main changes to the city's special events code. They really are designed to align with the realities of how our permit processing works. So the first one is to add a little more detail about the traffic control plan that the city can request. The previous version of the code did allow the city to request a traffic control plan, but we were receiving pretty complex plans that were not prepared by a professional traffic engineer, and that was problematic for our team to review. So this language just clarifies that if it is a more than a de minimis impact on the street system, and we have that defined as multiple intersections or a heavier volume street, that has to be prepared by a professional traffic engineer. The second part is to remove the language about reimbursement for services. While it was designed that this would be an option for revenue for the city, in reality, this created expectations that the city would be providing safety and security through public works and police, and we just don't have the staff to do that. So applicants were requesting services, and it's not feasible for the city to provide that, even if we were getting reimbursed for it. So this proposal removes that language to just clarify that that's not something that we will be able to provide. So I have Parks Infrastructure Manager Gruen available if you have any questions, and that's our presentation.
Thank you. We received no written comments for this item by noon Monday. Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue to testify on this item?
No callers.
Thank you. City Recorder Krager, has anyone signed on in person to testify on this item?
No one signed up.
Thank you. Now I open up the floor to Councilor for questions. Council President Wolf.
Thank you, City Attorney Rihala. And Rick, thanks for joining us. So my question, and maybe this is defined in the traffic plan, but I completely understand why the reimbursement or, that clause is being pulled in terms of capacity. So I don't have issue with that. But my clarifying is, how do we ensure that adequate safety security is provided if someone's requesting for an event? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Council President Wolf. Happy to answer that question. For the record, Rick Ruin, Infrastructure Manager, Public Works, as well as Parks and Recreation Manager. So there's two types of special event requests that come in. We call those external and internal. For the external applicants, every application that's received, Council President Wolf, is reviewed by myself, representing Parks, our street supervisor, and Sergeant Doty from the police department. So we do screen those very carefully, looking for impacts to public safety and ensuring that the applicant can provide the needed safety of the event. If in our determination, as City Attorney Riala mentioned, if there's an impact to the roads of more than an intersection, that's when we require a traffic control plan. But outside of a traffic control plan, we're looking at the application to ensure all the safety concerns are met. Now, what this means is also we're not doing our job as part of Public Works providing infrastructure support to the event, restrooms, garbage, litter, during the event. The original intent of this was whether it's Public Works or police, were to be working the event, which is different than what we do for the special events, which again is to provide the resources to maintain the event, the grounds, et cetera, during that event. So nothing's really changed other than we're not working as part of the event. We're doing our job in Public Works and police. They'll still be available to respond to safety concerns. We're still out there doing the maintenance of the facility during the event. Does that make sense?
It does, but I almost feel like we've lost a revenue source, and I'm sure that we haven't. I guess if it was during a normal business time and staff would be there, then that doesn't matter. But if it's outside a typical business, staffing time, then it seems like it's out of sync. But maybe I'm not following that.
No, this is a capacity issue, Council President Wolf. We in Public Works, as well as Police Department, and I'm not speaking for them tonight other than my conversations I've had with them, is we don't have the manpower to staff those events, even if we were recouping our costs of time. And it's also very hard to get our staff to volunteer, if you will, to earn the overtime or the extra pay, as they value their free time off hours. And many of these events, as you know, occur in the evenings, occur on weekends. And our staff, and more, just value their free time. And so that's the reason why. And so what was happening is, as we're reworking our special event permit application, when I came to the city 5 years ago, I wondered why the question was asked, are you requesting the services of police or Public Works? Why is that on the special event application? And then doing some research, I found that it was embedded in Tigard Municipal Code under 748. So to remove expectations, we felt that this should be removed. And again, we're still there at the event. We're just not working the event for the event organizer. We're doing our day job, maintaining the facilities and providing public safety as needed.
Okay. Thank you. I think what you're telling me is you're resetting expectations of what your role is while you're there. Okay. Thank you.
I think that's good clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Chief is ready to say something as well.
Mayor, Council President Wolf, if I may, Jamie McDonald, I'm the police chief. One of the things I think is important is we do get requests from certain special events for, say, police and Public Works presence. We quote them what it costs us to provide that service. And it's very expensive. They often, if I mean, I can't think of a time, anytime recently where they've actually said, oh, okay, please provide that. So we will, we'll assess an event request and make recommendations if we feel that they need to have their own event staff or security on scene. We don't provide it as an in-kind donation. As Rick said, it's a bandwidth issue, and honestly, it costs the city money to provide that service. And so we don't have endless amounts of time and money to provide that. So we do quote from time to time what it would cost, and rarely does anyone ever take us up on that. So I wouldn't consider it a revenue source, but it also, I would consider it more of a cost neutral, because we don't staff it specially unless it's something that the city is supporting as an event. And we may make an in-kind donation with time or, overtime or staffing above the normal, like what Rick's talking about.
Thank you both.
Councilor Shaw?
Thank you.
Yeah, question, is this in line with what? Is this the line, the section 1, in its sole discretion, the city may require the traffic control? Is that in line with what other cities also include?
Councilor Shaw, I can say yes. It's very critical to any jurisdiction when we're dealing with street closures. And so this is very much in line with our peers.
So I guess I'm a little concerned about in its sole discretion, and not that I don't think a city should have a discretion, but I'm a little worried about playing favorites. And so is there a process? Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, Councilor Shaw, we screen the application and talk with the applicant. So whenever we receive it, again, as I mentioned, the initial screen is done by Parks, Streets, and PD. And when it involves a street closure, we bring in our city engineer or traffic engineer to review what is being proposed. We'll pull up maps. We'll look at the impact on not just the street being proposed for closure, but the surrounding streets. If we feel that there's more than a road segment, say a block party, for example, where it's just one way in, and we also requiring an abutting neighbor's signature for all affected property owners within the area that's being proposed for a street closure. So if it's a simple road segment that doesn't affect other intersections, or if it's a cul-de-sac and it's just a simple barricade, there's no traffic control plan required. But when you consider multiple streets being impacted, including main roads, then it would be the determination that we would need a traffic control plan, which would also have to be staffed by professional certified flaggers.
Okay, thank you. This is something I will personally be monitoring, because it just seems that we have a lack of, you call them block parties, but festivals or even street events as compared to our brethrens, whether it be Hillsborough, Beaverton, Tualatin, certainly, and even Lake Oswego. So I'll do a little more due diligence on this, but I just wanted to make sure we weren't limiting some potential economic development opportunities that could come to the city. Thank you.
Councilor Shaw, if I may, excuse me, we'll get requests for like fun runs and things like that. That's a pretty good example of something where we would require a traffic control plan for maybe intersections or where roadways may have to be crossed by the participants. And that's where we evaluate the necessity for professional flaggers, or could it be done with volunteers, things like that. So we assess each one of them based on the traffic volume and the traffic flow on where they're requesting it. Often what we do is we help work with them to maybe modify their route that they've suggested, so that we can have a lesser impact on roadways and make it safer for the participants as well.
And I assume that also includes city events?
Yes, actually the city.
So I remember one of our events where we had people running across the street without any traffic control.
Yeah, we
Okay.
try to avoid those as much as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Shaw, if I could just add quickly to your question. The downtown events, we've developed some templates. So for street fair and the closure that occurs there, as long as it's consistent within the template that was developed by our engineering team, it wouldn't necessarily require a traffic control plan. It may require flaggers for, safe crossing. An example also where we had July 4th last year in Cook Park, we had them prepare a traffic control plan to get people out safely off of 92nd onto Durham. So very much agree with what the chief said and how we scrutinize each application.
City Attorney Rihala.
Thank you. So I do want to kind of tie those points together. So the code right now does require a traffic control plan for anything that's going to close a street. This change, the in its sole discretion, only applies to situations where a professional traffic control plan is required. And those are because we've had situations where it's a complex street or it's multiple intersections or it's a high volume street. And in those, we've gotten basically a not helpful traffic control plan that we need the applicant to go back and do a more thorough review on. So the in its sole discretion it's there because we don't know all the situations in which we could require it. So I understand that there is some leeway in terms of the city's interpretation of it, but it's put there so that we can decide if the situation warrants. And that, again, is just for a professional plan because everything that's going to close a street requires a level of traffic control.
And I echo a little bit of Councilor Shaw's concern. Do we have any, really even very broad policy on when a professional traffic engineer is required? Because, again, if we have a policy even loosely written, I think it will reduce the risk of us being accused of playing favor, right? It's like everybody follows the same policy. So do we have that kind of policy in place?
We do, yes.
Okay.
So the city engineer has actually prepared a map, kind of example, a picture that will go with our applications. And so it shows situations in which a professional plan is required or not.
Okay.
So again, it's not inclusive of everything, but it does give an example of a de minimis, non-impactful versus a more significant professional required.
Yeah, because when I read the word de minimis, it gave me a pause.
Sure.
I was like, what does that mean? But if you have a general, at least some examples or policy in place, that makes me feel better about when I'm playing favors.
Yeah.
So,
A picture is worth 1,000 words.
I know, okay. Any other questions? I also have a question, maybe I'm being a little picky. In section 2, we cross out the letter B. So I worry that the new code would be A, C, D, E, F, or is it B will still be there by default?
So we will make sure that B is reserved and left blank so that it doesn't change the numbering or lettering of the rest of the code, because then that changes cross-references and stuff, so yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just a little picky that way, so. All right, so any other question? All right, so no question, I will close the public hearing, and it's council consideration of ordinance, not ordinance, it is ordinance 26-04.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Shaw.
Well, I do want to thank staff for all the work on this, because I know there have been issues in the past with some non-professional transportation plans. So I appreciate and thank you for taking all of our questions and for having an example pictures that will answer some of the de minimis impact. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, will the city recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 26-04, an ordinance amending Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 7.48, regarding special event permits.
Will the city recorder conduct a roll call vote, starting with the youth counselor for an advisory vote?
Youth Counselor Hellick? Aye. Counselor Schlack?
Yes.
Counselor Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Wolf?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Counselor Gaducy?
Aye.
Mayor Hu?
Yes.
Counselor Robbins?
Yes.
Ordinance number 26-04 is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. All right, thank you. I think we're done with public hearings. All right, so next will be a briefing on Tiger Home, which is Housing, Opportunity, Mobility, and Enterprise Community Engagement Briefing. And we'll have our Associate Planner Gomez to present this item. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Amber Gomez. I'm an associate planner for the City of Tigard and the new project manager for the Tigard Home Project. This evening, I'll provide a briefing on Phase 2 of the Tigard Home Project. We'll review takeaways from recent community engagement efforts and lay out next steps for the project. Slide, please. As a reminder, Tigard Home stands for Housing, Opportunity, Mobility, and Enterprise. This is a long-range planning project that aims to deliver policy and code amendment recommendations for Tigard's residential neighborhoods to be considered by City Council for adoption. A successful project will facilitate thriving communities where housing, economic, and entertainment options are easily accessible whether someone is walking, biking, or rolling. Through community engagement, we are seeking input to determine how to provide community members with these additional options at a neighborhood-appropriate scale. The project was also awarded $95,000 of grant funds from Metro to support the community engagement plan and engage with people traditionally not reached through long-range planning processes. Slide, please. The goal of Tigard Home is to bring more nearby shops and services to neighborhoods, expand home and property use options, simplify neighborhood business rules, create safer, more connected walking paths, and reduce climate impacts through reduction of vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. Slide, please. The first phase of Tigard Home focused on urban agriculture and livestock regulations. Following the Urban Agriculture Code adoption, staff began community outreach efforts for the next phase of the home project. The project experienced delays due to key staff turnover and issuing a second community engagement request for proposals after the first lacked acceptable proposals. Engagement with the support of our two consultants working on this project, Zan Associates and First 40 Feet, kicked off in June 2025. In spring of this year, staff will return to provide a briefing on the direction of potential code recommendations. After finishing community engagement during summer 2026, staff will present conclusions from the engagement phase, as well as consideration for accepting and endorsing the final home community engagement report. Staff aim to fully develop and bring home solutions for adoption to City Council in early 2027. Slide, please. Robust community engagement is at the core of the Tigard Home Project. The grant funding enhances our ability to make sure home solutions are truly built by all community members, not just those who speak English or who feel naturally comfortable being part of government processes. Our consultants are helping us achieve this goal. As you can see here, we've split the engagement into 3 phases. The first phase went from June through October 2025 and gathered input on the types of amenities, shops, and services residents want in Tigard neighborhoods. We'll be going over the takeaways of this phase later in the presentation. We began the second phase in November 2025, which focuses on gathering input on preferred building forms and locations for these new shops and services. This means understanding the size, scale, and architecture types the community wants to see in their neighborhoods. This is the phase we are currently in. Later in the year, we'll enter Phase 3, where we will receive feedback on the direction of code changes based on the input received so far, so we can confirm that what we've heard matches what the community wants. Slide, please. Since June 2025, we have completed 14 community engagement events, including 8 tabling events, 4 targeted outreach events, and 2 community dinners. More than 800 community members have participated in these events and activities. The events have featured a wide variety of activities to get input on Tigard Home, including small focus groups, one-on-one conversations, using blocks to build a dream neighborhood, preference surveys, mapping activity, and community vision boards. Slide, please. The input received from community engagement efforts so far can be grouped into 4 categories of key takeaways: amenities, barriers, desired businesses and services, and building forms and design. Amenities are physical features and places that enhance a community. Some of the feedback we've gotten in this category are that community members highly value public green spaces, parks, trails, and outdoor family amenities, and they think they're needed in more areas of the city. They also noted continuous sidewalk networks, separation of bike lanes from traffic, and more direct transit connections would make it easier for people to reach services. Colorful benches, public art, and little free libraries are seen as making places more fun and welcoming, and people want more basic neighborhood amenities like small grocery stores and coffee shops closer to home. Slide, please. For barriers, community members identified disconnected sidewalk networks and bike lanes, high car speeds, and long distances as barriers preventing them from walking and biking to more destinations. People described wanting to feel more connected to their neighbors and less reliant on cars, but needing other options to feel safe and easy first. TriMet is an essential and heavily used service, but there are gaps in the network requiring people to walk long distances to get to their destinations. And the conditions of sidewalks in some areas need improvement, especially to help those using mobility devices. Slide, please. For desired businesses and services, we asked participants to describe what stores, services, or social places they wish they could walk to in their neighborhoods. A popular answer was community spaces and third places, like venues, bookstores, community centers, and neighborhood cafes, really places where people can gather. People described wanting more services close to home, like grocery stores and small corner markets, as well as varied entertainment, so places like dessert shops, bakeries, food cart pods, karaoke bars, and more restaurants in general. Overall, there was strong community support for small-scale indoor sales and services uses and mobility hubs as infrastructure to support bicycling. Next slide, please. Finally, for building forms and design, community members have shown preferences for traditional and craftsman-style architecture, designs that evoke the Pacific Northwest, such as through using materials like wood, as well as more modern aesthetics. Creative and beautiful design matters to the community to enhance neighborhood character. People support mixed-use buildings, repurposed homes as businesses, and live-work lofts, generally at a scale that feels compatible with existing residential character, but there has been some support for larger mixed-use buildings as well. Housing diversity and affordability are identified as priorities, and people gravitated toward building examples with warm lighting, lots of windows, and indoor-outdoor seating that evokes a cozy, warm, welcoming feeling. We'll continue to gather feedback on building forms and design, as well as preferred locations for shops and services throughout this phase of engagement. Slide, please. The next steps of Tigard Home are to continue phases 2 and 3 of community engagement and complete a final community engagement report. During this time, we'll also begin drafting potential solutions with a plan to bring a preliminary code framework for the project in late spring of this year. Part of this process will also involve looking at other jurisdictions that have adopted similar codes. For example, the state of Washington House recently passed a bill, although it hasn't yet been signed into law, to allow neighborhood cafes and corner stores on residential lots throughout the state. And there's some cities that already allow them, so we'll be looking into those. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. We do have a couple questions we'd like to get your feedback on for next steps. I did receive a few questions about these from council in advance. As I go over them, I'll try to address those questions, but of course, please let me know if you need additional clarification. So first, staff proposed proceeding with developing regulations to allow indoor sales and services and mobility hub uses in residential zones, subject to standards ensuring compatibility. The indoor sales and services category, as currently written in the code, includes uses primarily operated indoors and provides the sale, lease, rental, or repair of products for the general public, or provides personal services or entertainment. This is a pretty broad category that includes businesses such as restaurants and other eating and drinking establishments, retail stores, fitness studios, banks, and salons, just for example. Part of developing standards to ensure compatibility would involve evaluating what business types within this category would be appropriate for Tigard's residential areas. Mobility hubs provide charging stations for electric transportation as a primary use, which includes e-bike or e-scooter rental, or electric charging for cars, trucks, scooters, or bikes. So does council agree that staff should proceed with this recommendation? And are there any other use categories council would like to see allowed in residential zones? Again, for reference, other commercial use categories that are currently listed in the development code are adult entertainment, commercial lodging, major event entertainment, motor vehicle sales and rental, fuel sales and servicing, non-accessory parking, office, outdoor sales and services, and self-service storage. We haven't heard much support for these uses through engagement so far, though some businesses within the office category, such as small medical or veterinarian offices, for example, could potentially be compatible in residential areas. And then for the second large bullet point, staff also proposed to continue to explore the building forms and allowed locations of potential shops and services in residential zones through community engagement. Staff plan to seek input on elements such as building size, scale and features, proximity to major streets, outdoor seating, signage windows, and other elements that could lead to potential development code standards. Does council agree staff should proceed with this engagement direction? And are there any other specific considerations or potential standards council would like staff to seek input on through community engagement? As I mentioned, there's a number of different potential standards that we're planning to explore through engagement, but if there are any in particular of those that I listed or that I didn't that council really wants to make sure that staff focuses on, that would be helpful to know. So that is all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Planner Gomez. So we can go down the line. Let's start with Council Robin if you are ready. So what do you think? Directions, any comment, question, directions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm super excited about this project. I love the ideas of a dessert shop or something, where I can walk down the road and get dessert that I don't have at home. You went through a long list of things that I don't have in front of me, so it's really kind of hard to comment on those. I would say, just off the top of my head, I would not be interested in pursuing adult entertainment in a neighborhood, nor car sales or fuel sales. Those are the ones that caught my ear, but without having seen the list. But it just seems kind of maybe common sense that we do that. This has taken a long time to get where we are because we did have that pause for a while, and I'm very excited about this. So the timeline that we see here, I'm wondering if the next items are mutually exclusive, because it says for now through, I think, fall or winter, if I have this slide, you will be getting more engagement, plan to winter and spring. So now gather input, preferred building forms, but I think we already asked their preferred building forms some, like which buildings did you like? And since we don't really have a lot of planning control at this point, right? We don't have a lot of control over dictating what your building could look like, since that's kind of at the state level. Can we kind of move this along a little, or are we going to, and I don't mean that in a rude way at all, I just don't know how long it takes, or is that in addition to also working on making the code written?
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of, I will be working on drafting code while doing the community engagement, so they are kind of happening at the same time. So I'm trying to remember all the different elements of your question. That was really okay. We do, through the Metro grant, have kind of a required number of engagement events that we need to do, so we can kind of alter the different things that we're asking people questions about, but we do have an amount that we need to do for that grant. And in terms of getting more idea of what people want in terms of building forms, that did come up a little bit in the first phase of engagement. I think there is more that we can still ask people, especially trying to understand, like, do you want to see a standalone commercial building, or would you prefer to only see mixed use? Those sorts of questions, I think there's still room to get more feedback on.
That's very helpful, especially hearing that we're required to do a certain number. So, a lot of times I'll be like, that's enough, let's move on. But if you have to do it, then you can't argue, I can't argue with you at all, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Schlack, direction, comment?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to give you and the team kudos for the CD get-together event that was hosted last June. I know Councillor Shaw and I attended and went through the entire process that you had set up for the community. I found it to be really well set up, really engaging, and I was able to give my residential views of what I want to see, not necessarily city council views, although they are pretty similar. So just quick questions. One, and I don't expect you to have this right now, where in the code is that list?
Oh, of the commercial uses?
Yes, that would be helpful
That
to
would
go
be in the use categories section of Title 18. That's the title of a chapter. And then within that, it's broken down into like residential uses, civic, and there's a section that's commercial, and it lists those out.
Cool. It would be helpful, perhaps after this, if that, a link to that or just that reference could be sent out so we can peruse that. I know I was writing down my list and I missed some of the words that you had mentioned. So I just wrote down the word entertainment and I didn't catch apparently a very important word in front of that. Which is why I made the face of like, oh, I didn't hear that. So kudos for that event. And it sounds like in this case, the council's not necessarily committing that these are the only sorts of regulations. This is just a starting point. And we can come back and we can add additional categories that we would want to consider at some point. Same with, the second one is effectively, we're still getting engagement. Nothing is being committed to, like, say, the meeting we had recently on River Terrace where we were making commitments about certain requirements. So since this is just sort of a green light to continue, continue without making any definite commitments, I'm fine with both recommendations as they are, and I don't have any specifics to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Wolf.
Yeah, kind of ditto to both of them. It would be really helpful as we start to fine tune, kind of to have that list in that next meeting, because that's what I was wrestling. It was one of the questions, like, what exactly does that cover? So I support the direction that we're headed, and just looking forward to seeing more details as we get closer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Associate Planner Gomez. And it's the second time today I get to see you. So I participated in Leadership Tiger today, and Associate Planner Gomez also gave this presentation. So thank you very much. A couple of things. One, in engagement events, I think I've attended over half of them. And I just want to ensure one of the key takeaways that keeps coming up is parking, but it seems to keep getting dropped off of the amenities list. So if we can ensure that that gets added back on, because I know there are a number of community members who want to make sure that they aren't left out of going to some particular amenities because there isn't transit. We know right now there's TriMet has budget issues, it's going to be continued shortage of transportation. And so if their only option, if they cannot bike, if they have multiple children and so forth, then at least they have the ability to have a car. And I know that's been, today was another example where lots of folks put parking. I agree with giving this kind of a green light to go ahead. I'm a little concerned about too what indoor sales and services, and I too would like to see the Title 18. I did catch that one word, so I would definitely not want that to be in a neighborhood or quite frankly anywhere. And then the mobility hub, that is a little bit of a concern to me too. So I would really, instead of just putting it subject to standards ensuring compatibility, I'd like to see what those draft standards could potentially be as we move forward. Again, green light, I'd like to get a little more information about the Title 18, about what potential draft standards could be, and we could look at benchmark other cities that have that, maybe even Washington, though I'd say that's a whole different state and a whole different potential, maybe incompatibility issues. And the other question is, I think I've answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gudusi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for presenting today. In terms of the different categories, what you have there seems the most appropriate from what I heard, but again, having a whole list in front of us would be useful. So I do agree that we should proceed with that aspect of it. One question that I have overall is, do we gain significant benefit by continuing to explore the building forms and allowed locations of potential shops and services in residential zones? One of my concerns is that regardless of what the city does and the time that we're spending in doing this, developers will then sort of do what they want with it. So us saying, hey, you should build this here, doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And most developers would do that due diligence anyway, so are we duplicating efforts in doing so?
Yeah, that's a great question. In one respect, yes, developers will, choose whether or not to build there. We can create the opportunity of, these new shops and services in different areas, but, we can't, there are policies we can take to drive people to do that, but we can't, force anyone to do it. They're private developers. They'll make their own decisions. But in respect to like building forms and maybe Assistant Director of CD could help me out here a little bit. My understanding is that we can, for commercial at least, still have design standards. And so that's kind of what we're trying to get feedback on.
I concur completely. Assistant Director of Community Development, Skylar Warren. So I think Associate Planner Gomez summed it up perfectly there. The other thing I'd note is when we talk about developers, we're really more often talking about business owners. It is unlikely, I think, that given the regulations that we're likely to bring forward, that there would be much of an incentive to scrape an existing site and do development in a residential neighborhood to convert to commercial. What we're more likely to see is a home that's on a corner or something like that, where either an occupant or someone who's not an occupant opts to open a small business there, right? Could be a cafe, could be a small restaurant, could be, a pet supply store, the kind of things that are going to scale well to a neighborhood like that. So does that sort of answer your question? In some sense, the design standards are less likely to come into play because it's going to be conversions, and so it is any added building square footage that we would really be looking at. But of course, we do want to have comprehensive design standards in case there is a situation where someone does rebuild on a site.
That's fair. Thank you. Really, my concern is given limited FTE within the city, would that time be best spent somewhere else? Not necessarily not wanting to do it, but
But you are okay with the general direction? Okay. Councilor Anderson.
Well, this is interesting. This is the first time I've heard about it. And I'm okay with the general direction for sure. And thank you, Skylar. I can see less infill. Well, I can see some infill possibilities. I can see a developer making a corner lot available and sell it off, possibly. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of code changes you come up with. And I assume you have some kind of committee for a design review for the standards, or maybe you won't even have that many to do that.
Well, it is notable, as Associate Planner Gomez said, that unlike we've had so much of our control over design stripped away over the years, because these are commercial uses. Assuming it's not a home occupation, we do have more control over how we review that. I think it would probably, in terms of being equitable, in terms of how we treat other businesses like your Costco's and Walmart's of Tigard, who don't go through a design committee, we're more likely to put them through a site development review. And that's where the kind of tight crafting of those design standards comes into play, so that we can ensure that our staff has the tools at their disposal to ensure compatibility of any new development that would be happening in a neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, good. I'm on board.
All right. Youth Councilor Halleck, you have any comments or questions?
I'm happy with the general direction. I'm just curious, where are like the like hot spots for like places that you want a lot of these like amenities, shops and whatnot to be, like downtown Tigard,
Yeah.
other places that I can't think of.
That's a great question. That's something we've actively been asking in our most recent engagement events. One of our consultants put together a really great map that we've used at a like 16-foot scale. And we've also used a smaller one to get feedback from community members about, exact places that they think would be great, or, more generally, do they want to see them along busier road corridors or maybe near trailheads or that sort of thing. Tigard Home is specifically for the existing residential areas, so not any of our planned districts like downtown or the Triangle or Washington Square. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, for me, I support the general direction, and I would like you. I will request a list of proposed use, and so it's in front of us. Yeah, I support the current thinking and not the alternative use you mentioned, and also I also have concern about FTE because I understand you need to reach the number of people into the grant, the certain number of people, but I see you already talk with 700 people, and including guests at Just Compassion. So I think you reach a wide variety of people already. So, and also I have the design standards. So to the extent that you can expedite any aspect of it, I also have concern about your time using doing these things and not other stuff that may be high priority for the city. And this is your first time presenting in front of the council, right? Great job for the first time. Yeah. So yeah, and then also the parking, and just leave you with a comment that I talked with my neighbor, and I think I talked to one of your predecessors before. When I mentioned this to her, she's like, "No, the corner store will be more expensive than going to Costco." I was like, "What happened if you run out of sugar?" And she said, "Well, she would just knock on my door. I can give her some sugar." So I just don't know. I don't need an answer right now, but just think about things like that. I mean, I understand the reason for this. It's more walkable and good for climate and everything. But so the general direction. The direction from the council is we support the general direction, but we're not making firm commitment at this point, and we would like to see more information. So, anything else? All right. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody needs a break before we? All right. So let's convene as Town Center Development Agency. Huh? Oh, Councilor Shack, sorry, Councilor Shack would like a break. So that's come back at 8 o'clock, our original scheduled time. being Town Center Development Agency, and we'll be discussing Nick Wilson Memorial Plaza, and Redevelopment Manager Farrelly will lead this discussion. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Hu and the directors of the Town Center Development Agency Board. My name is Sean Farrelly. I'm Redevelopment Manager for the City of Tigard. Tonight we're going to talk about the proposed Nick Wilson Memorial Plaza project and some recommended changes. And tonight we're looking to see if the board is comfortable with the recommended changes to the project. For those who may not know who Nick Wilson was, he served on the Tigard City Council for 10 years. Prior to that, on the Planning Commission, he was a landscape architect by trade, and offices of his firm overlooked the area that we're going to talk about, Main Street and Fano Creek. Next slide. So this project had its origins in 2014. The city was considering looking at building some smaller green spaces along Main Street. And Nick Wilson, who was off council by that time, developed a concept of a public space that would front Fano Creek. That would provide an additional connection to the Fano Creek Trail and better access to the resources of the creek. So shown here is the area in question, Main Street, Fano Creek Trail crossing, and Cooper Mountain Ale Works, basically the driveway there. Next slide, please. So in 2019, the board approved acquisition of an easement of the existing driveway and also a strip of land adjacent to the ingress driveway. So if you're familiar with the brew pub building and the commercial building next to it, you drive into the rear parking lot on one driveway and you exit the other. Well, to realize this concept, we would have to close down an existing driveway, and obviously you can't just close down a driveway without opening up the way in and out on the other side. So for that reason, we acquired an easement on this area that's currently the driveway, and then we purchased a strip of land on the Main Street Village side. So if we wanted to do this project, that's what we would have to do, rebuild basically a two-way driveway. And this project was added to the CIP in 2020. And Nick Wilson passed away in the year 2020, and council at the time recommended naming this project in honor of him, although it should be noted that a formal naming process has not occurred. So this is the we hired a design firm, and engineers got to about 30% design, and this is the plan of what it would look like. So as you can see, dealing with a pretty constrained space, and so not a lot of space to build a public space. So we, heard, as we got to the 30% design, we took a step back and we wanted to talk to more stakeholders downtown, and we got feedback from neighboring property owners, from the Tigard Downtown Alliance, the Chamber, and they raised some concerns about the project, including some impacts that would occur during construction, and comments that the relatively small public space maybe wasn't the best use of TIF dollars, and wouldn't really attract more people downtown. Also, the Town Center Advisory Commission in 2023, they ranked it as the lowest priority project in downtown. So for that reason, next slide, staff is recommending a change or a modification in the scope, and the TCAC did recommend this change in direction in 2025. So there'd be some aspects of the plan that our designers had worked on, as well as an additional project that came to our attention as needing near-term priority. So one of the things that needs some near-term priority is on the existing Fano Creek Trail, on the side of the Curiosities business. There are some boardwalk, and also there is wood decking across the pedestrian bike bridge. And that needs attention. That's been there, I think, maybe since the trail was originally built. And it doesn't perform well in the rain either. Gets very slick. So, we did some research into what, new decking and materials that could be used. And there's a product that's a non-slip fiberglass decking that would replace that boardwalk and the decking on the bridge. So, pivoting some of the funds towards that project. Also, to restore and replant the Fanno Creek banks in this area, which are in, if you've been down there, not the greatest condition. A lot of scouring has occurred and a lot of non-native plants. So that would be replanted with native plantings and make it look pretty good and function well in terms of the, riverine environment. Next slide. Another project that was studied as part of the design was to improve the crossing of Fanno Creek Trail at Main Street. So we would have basically a wider area there that would provide easier turning for cyclists, which was identified to us as an issue. Requires a real sharp turn once you get to the other side of Main Street if you're coming from the Curiosity side. That would also enable us to build a new ADA ramp to serve that ADA parking space that would remain. Next slide. And then a new decorative railing to be put on the Main Street Bridge. So that's the the multimodal bridge that we're familiar with, would be installed over the existing railing. So it would be decorative, and in this case, the concept is showing some native animals and plants and fish of Fanno Creek, of the ecosystem. So the family of Nick Wilson and some former members of council are still interested in honoring the life and work of Nick Wilson. And next slide. We did meet with representatives from the family, including his widow, and we shared some alternative concepts. And the family expressed interest in a custom-designed bench that could be placed near the trailhead. It could be done in consultation with the family and, have some connection to his work in his life. And we would happily involve the family in that design process. So that's the end of my presentation, and happy to answer any questions about this proposed modification of the project.
Thank you. Councilors, any question, comments? Council President Wolf.
Sean, thank you. And I just have a comment. Just really appreciate the conversations with businesses, with the family, and to really come up with a plan that honors Nick and his service, but really serves the area well. So thank you for the work on this.
Councilor Schock.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, ditto to what Council President Wolf said, and I support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
I just want to confirm the street design is not going to take away any parking space.
It would not. There is a large area in the existing ADA space, and that would be slimmed down ADA. I mean, the diagonal markings to mark off the ADA space. So that would be reduced a little bit, and that would provide the area where the ADA ramp would go.
Okay.
So it's, I think it would function better as an ADA space.
And the bridge cover, the beautiful bridge cover, that's not part of the design feature to honor former Councilor Wilson, or is that just beautification?
I would say there's beautification. I mean, I think early on in the design of this, we thought, that railing is pretty utilitarian. It needs to be classed up a little bit. And so the designers came up with that idea to honor the native flora and fauna of Fanno Creek. And I think that's in keeping with Nick Wilson's intentions. But the specific, connection to Nick Wilson's life would be through the bench, and that was what the family was most interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Schlag and Councilperson Wolf that I walk and bike there, and the decking really needs replacement, and so I support this. And I was at the TCAC meeting when they voted this project the last item. So yeah, so I agree with the modification from the proposal. Councilor Shah.
Thank you, and I too, like fellow counselors, support kind of the redesign and just making it, I think the custom design bench is more in line and really happy that the family is supportive. Following up on the mayor's question about parking, if you're looking at the rendering that was provided to us on the Main Street Fountain Creek Trail crossing, it looks to be very narrow for cars to be passing through, and I'm hoping it's not similar to what has happened at the post office, where folks cannot literally pull into the post office parking lot unless you clearly go into the opposite lane of traffic. So just want to make sure we aren't designing it so we can't fit a car.
Yeah, we will definitely, I think, learn from that, although that's more of a turning into a driveway, not exactly the same. And I believe this is a very similar distance between the bulb outs. It's just wider this way. What's the right word? Wider, more breadth with the same lane configuration. But I can confirm that. But that's my understanding, that it's very similar in right-of-way width. It's just that the bulb outs are wider. Again, for that bicycle turning movement, that's very difficult.
Councilor Anderson.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
So I was on council in 2019 when we approved that, the land swap. Do we still have that right away?
So we do. And that's one thing I meant to mention on my presentation, that we do have that easement and we have that strip of land. And there could be a time in the future where we want to do the project, or in particular, if that the brew pub building and the neighboring building ever sometime in the future completely redeveloped, and that would be the perfect time to come in and say, let's work together. We have this easement. Let's make it work. Then it would make a lot of sense then.
Right. Well, I'm glad we're doing something. I think Nick would like to bench. In Nick's day job, he was a landscape architect, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So he was very in tune with this kind of stuff. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Guzzi, looks good. Councilor Robbins, looks good. Youth Councilor, looks good. All right, so thank you, Sean. We think it looks good, so.
Great.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on. Let's reconvene to City Council. All right, so next item on our agenda is Building a Better Tiger. We'll do both polling results discussion and bound rate discussion. For the polling results, we will have Police Public Information Officer Anderson and Ben Patikin of Patikin Research Strategy to present. Good evening.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kelsey Anderson, the Public Information Officer for the Police Department, and also helping with communications and outreach for this facility project. Thank you for allowing us to provide an update on this project tonight. We are very excited to share the outcome of the new poll that was just conducted for this project. And I just wanted to lay a little bit of the foundation here. We had a few goals in conducting this poll. Of course, one was to gauge overall support for the project, but we also wanted to test ballot title language, key messages, and trusted messengers. And you will hear from the expert in just a moment, Ben Patinkin of Patinkin Research Strategies. He will go over the analysis and also some of the key takeaways. But first, I just wanted to highlight what I see as the biggest takeaway. After people heard the messaging for this project with the public safety language in the ballot title, 56% of people said they would vote yes. That is a significant figure. The poll also shows us our most effective messages are those centered around efficient response, accessibility, accountability in required audits, planning for community growth, and supporting recruitment and retention. And now, let me hand it over to Ben Patinkin for the full analysis and his presentation. And of course, we are happy to answer any questions at the end.
Well, thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm going to dive right into the slides and give you what is, we still have a long road to travel, but probably some of the better news I've given any sort of jurisdiction in Oregon over the past few months. So I'm excited to be here. First things first, just a review of the methodology. So we talked to 400 likely May 2026 voters in your city. We conducted our interviews with trained interviewers via both landline and cell phones. We talked to voters who were on cell phones and on landlines. We used a voter file sample and we established quotas and weights to make sure that the demographics for our final survey data are reflective again of that May 2026 electorate. Interviews were conducted February 2 through 4. And the overall margin of error is plus or minus 4.9 percentage points. Just as you know, just a note, as we go through this, there are younger and older voters and other sort of like smaller subgroups within the sample. Just remember for each of those, the margin of error is going to increase because there are fewer people behind each one of those cells. We also reference targets. These are defined as people who identified as either voting yes, not strongly, or as undecided in the initial ballot language that we tested. And then we break the city into two regions, east and west, based on precinct. Just a quick review of the major findings. Number one, it is better to use the words replace public safety than replace police in the actual ballot language. We tested that, so this is definitely a recommendation in terms of ballot language to use moving forward. And there's a path to victory. As Kelsey noted, by the end of the survey in the split sample that was testing a replace public safety bit of language, we did get to a majority, so there is a path. All right, so where the bond starts. As I noted, we tested a split sample, which means half the sample at random was placed into split sample A, and half the sample was placed into split sample B. The split sample A portion had ballot language that referenced police, so shall Tigard replace police, public works, emergency facilities. The split sample B portion got the same language with the exception that it says shall Tigard replace public safety, public works, emergency facilities. When we do that, for split sample B, you get to 47% as a starting point, yes, voting yes, 31% voting no, 22% undecided. And as you can see, that's decidedly better than what you get for split sample A, where it's 34 yes, 38 no, 28 undecided. Democrats present a solid base up for the yes vote. They're at 56% yes, 24% no. NAV voters are most undecided and leaning a little bit no, but not decisively. So 27 yes, 35 no. Republican voters are leaning no, 26% yes, 55% no. And this is indicative of most tax measures that you see across the region. Democrats tend to, be more in favor of a tax increase. Republicans less so. And you can see there's really, at least for Democrats, not that much difference based on age. Younger Democrats, older Democrats providing similar levels of support at 54 and 58% yes, respectively. Younger NAV voters, slightly more supportive than older ones. It's 31 to 23 yes for each of those. And then older Republicans far more likely to vote no. They're at 57% no compared to younger Republicans who are at 38% no. Looking at the data over time. So we've been polling this particular issue for quite some time for the city of Tigard, starting off with a poll in 2021 where we were looking at a $60 million bond. That got to 68% yes in that test. But as we started looking at a broader scope for the project, the numbers started to fall. And frankly, as we started getting into a period of time that was a little bit more difficult for any sort of bond or levy to pass in the metro area, again, it just got a little bit more difficult. So we dropped to 52% yes with a $200 million bond in 2021. And then down into the mid to low 40s between November of 2024 and today. What I like about this particular slide is that you see a drop in the no vote going from 41 to 35 and an increase in undecided going from 18 to 25 for functionally the same ballot language compared to what we tested in December of last year. What that indicates to me is that we now have a better chance at education and persuasion efforts for the PAC, which is nice to see. Where we see movement, it's women, independent men, blue collar voters, so with those without a 4-year degree, and then voters who live on the east side. So looking at the same question again, just by different demographic breaks, on the far right, you see the yes margin, yes minus no equals yes margin. You can see the yes margin from our December poll. And then the second column from right, you can see the yes margin for today's poll. And as you'll note, there's a bit of a gender gap, and this one's sort of normal. Women are typically more supportive of this sort of thing than men, and you see that here. This is more a function of the fact that there are more undecided women, because when you look at the yes vote, the margin of error is functionally, it says that these numbers are the same. So 42% of men are voting yes, 40% of women are voting no. When you look at it based on age, again, sort of a typical dynamic. When you look at the margin, younger voters under age 50 are more likely to be voting yes than voters over age 70. But again, this is more a function of just more undecided voters in that younger cohort. And then you also see a typical gap based on educational attainment. Those with a vocational degree or less, they're divided on the measure. Those with a 4-year degree or more are more supportive, plus 17 for that particular group. And this is all, in many of these cases, a measurable improvement from what we saw back in December in terms of the margin. Looking at the partisanship based on party registration, compared to December, we're also seeing a much better sort of scaling on this. So Democrats, as I mentioned, more supportive, Republicans less so, independents more divided, maybe leaning a little bit no. This is actually not as typical when you're looking at home ownership. Homeowners more supportive at plus 13 than our renters at minus 4. Usually we see the inverse because typically renters don't feel like they pay property taxes. And then there is a regional gap, the east side more supportive than the west. So we asked a question to try and understand how much voters have been paying attention. The city has been doing an education campaign between, I think, Christmas, if I recall correctly, and today. Kelsey, just nod your head if I got that right. And what you can see here is, well, overall, in terms of the 3 sets of columns from the middle to the left, the overall number who said that they were paying attention is about the same. So you have 21% who say they're more likely to support based on the information they received, 26% who said it doesn't make them more supportive or less supportive, and 8% who say the information they've received over the past little while has made them less supportive. What I like about this particular slide is that you have far more people in the yes, more likely to support column, and far fewer in the yes, less likely to support than what we saw back in May of 2025. And what that indicates to me is that if you have received information about the bond, it has been far more likely to be positive, which I think is indicative of the information campaign reaching people. So message strategy. After we asked the question I just went through and the ballot language, we then moved into a series of statements just testing different reasons to support the bond. And as you'll see here, particularly for the top 4, this is the numbers are net convincing. So this was a 5-point scale. How convincing was this as a reason to support the bond? Is it very convincing, somewhat, not too, not all, or don't you know? Net convincing is a combination of very and somewhat convincing. And you get to 6 and 10 who say it's net convincing for all 4 of these messages. So increasing the efficiency of response, improving access, so talking about ADA accessibility, that sort of thing. Accountability measures, providing oversight, accountability for the projects. Talking about growth in the community and how it's created a need for this. All of these testing extremely well. We usually want to see numbers around 6 and 10 or higher on the net as indicative of a well-testing message. All of these other messages that we tested are okay. They're just not as good as the ones we just discussed. And when you think about a campaign, you only have a limited amount of dollars to deliver, both either on the education side for the city as a whole, or on the PAC side. And so you have to pick and choose what messages you want to deliver. I would make sure that we deliver these 4 before we delivered any others. The 2 that are best testing talk about access and community growth. Amongst all voters, you get to 65%. Net convincing for access, and then for community growth, you get to 60%. When looking at our targets, these are those soft voters in terms of their yes support and undecideds. These are the people that we need to move. They test very well at 86% net convincing and 77% net convincing, respectively. So after messaging, you can see a big difference based on the ballot language that people were offered. So if you were offered the language that referenced police, you see an increase in support. You go from 34 to 44% yes, but that pales in comparison to what we were able to do with the starting point for those who were offered the public safety language, which goes from 47 to 56. So similar amount of increase, but by virtue of the language that was tested, split sample B talking about public safety does better. We also tested spokespersons. When looking at this, best spokespersons for the campaign, this is how much you trust
excuse
this
me, Ben,
person.
can you stop
Yeah.
a little bit at the slide? Is it the right slide or the next one?
And this is the correct slide.
Okay, next one, please. Thank you, Ben. Please continue.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I must be lagging in the room, sorry. But yeah, so this is the spokesperson slide here. You have parents, senior citizens, business owners, public safety leaders, and the Chamber of Commerce. All of these are decent spokespersons, but when you're looking to see who is going to be the most persuasive, it's just parents talking with fellow community members, as well as senior citizens, getting to 80% trustworthy and 78% trustworthy, respectively. And then business owners sort of rounding out the second tier at 64% trustworthy. And again, it's not that public safety leaders in the Chamber of Commerce aren't trusted, it's just the top 3 or more so. And I believe that the next slide is the last slide. This just talks about target subgroups. This is honestly more for the PAC than it is for the city, because my understanding is the city has to talk to everybody. But I will note that these targets represent just sort of the typical targets I would expect for any tax measure. You're looking at women, NAVs, younger voters, usual suspects in that regard. So I'll just summarize and say again, there's a long road to travel here, a lot of information that needs to be imparted. But if you do it, you can move the needle. And with that, I will turn it back to Kelsey.
Thank you, Ben. And do you have anything else, Kelsey, or are we going to questions here?
If you have any questions, that would be
Councillor,
great.
do you have any questions or comment? Councillor Schlack.
Kelsey, just want to thank you and the team for the wonderful work that you all have been doing over the course of this bond measure, getting our message out there, and then of course seeing how it's great to see in the polling how it's impacting the voters that we're randomly selecting for these measurements. And I think it's just been really interesting to, when you are involved on the council side of things, you hear a lot of opinions and a lot of anecdotes about what works and what doesn't work. And it's been really interesting to compare what I've been hearing against the polling. Some of the instincts align with the polling quite well, and other ones are a bit counterintuitive. So this has been really valuable information for me at least. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you very
Ben.
much.
Very, very helpful. And next up will be Finance Director Kang, which will be presenting the bond rate aspect of the project. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Kang, Finance Director. We do have a couple slides up for this presentation, so if we can go to the next slide, please. So I'm here to provide an update on how the market has been performing as we're getting closer to the to referral date. So just to have full idea of where the market is moving and how that could potentially impact the bond. So the first slide here, the chart is an example of where the 30-year bond market rate trajectory has been over the last year. So when we are looking at the bond market, the 30-year is the most appropriate measure to look at since we're looking at a 30-year bond. So as you can see, there's been an upward trajectory in the long-term interest rates. And so what that means, and specifically as it relates to this bond, is that the cost of borrowing is going up. Specifically, we've seen about a 75 basis point change since we've started working on this project. And so the cost of issuing debt naturally is going up. So when we look at the millage rate, when we are issuing $150 million, that is an estimate based on the best information that is available at the time. And again, this is all subject to how the market conditions are behaving at the time. And so when a general obligation bond goes to the voters, they are voting on the authorization amount. So as you heard from the previous presentation on the bond amount, what they authorize is the $150 million or whatever that the total price tag is. They are not voting on a millage rate. So I just want to clarify that piece. On the flip side of the coin, if for some reason, by the time if the voters were to approve the bond and we're going to issue the bonds, if the interest rates were to go down, the millage rate would also alternatively go down. So it is all subject to market conditions. It is and can be volatile, as you can see. And so we just want to make sure that the best available information is available to council. If you go to the next slide, please. So I have just a quick comparison on how the market rates have impacted the bond. So at the $150 million bond size, that's the amount that we have been discussing over the past several months in our messaging. So based on today's rate, that millage rate is expected to increase to about 76 cents per 1,000. That is an increase from 67 cents that had been previously estimated. And as you can see, the estimated net monthly impact would increase. Alternatively, if we were to consider that if council wanted to consider keeping at the same estimated millage rate at the 67 cents per 1,000, that would mean that the project scope would have to be scaled down to about $130 million to stay at that same millage rate and the same estimated monthly cost as had been messaged previously. So those are the two comparisons of how the market rates have impacted the cost of borrowing. And again, these could, if there were something dramatic to happen in the market, these could change considerably over the next couple months. I don't foresee that. I just anecdotally, Bloomberg did publish a recent report on long-term interest rates that they're not expecting anything dramatic, but then again, you don't know what could happen with the federal government. That could, throw you for a loop. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Finance Director Ken. Councilor questions? Councilor Robbins.
I get to go first all night. I have a couple questions about the differences. Do we have any idea what it would mean to the project to lose $20 million worth of design? Like, what would we lose?
That's a great question. At this time, it's very difficult to know what the full scope of reductions would look like, but certainly there would have to be some value engineering and some tough decisions as far as what would have to be given up.
Yeah, it's really hard to decide that without knowing, so I know we're trying to kind of predict the future and figure out what we want to do. The polling that we just did, and maybe Kelsey can answer this, the polling that we just did, was that based on the 67 cents? And do we think those numbers would change significantly if it went up to 76 cents?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. The bond polling that we just conducted was for the total project cost of $150 million for the bond, so we did not test the individual rate.
All right. Acting City Manager Trish.
Thank you very much. I'd like to respond to the question about value engineering. And so over the course of the design and schematic design work that we've been doing to date, we've had the $150 million price tag in mind, and there's quite a bit that goes into that design. I recognize it's an imperfect scenario to provide you with a decision point without full information about what would change. But I can give you some information. So we've talked with our project team. Potentially pulling the building out of the ground would reduce some costs. Right now there's a fair amount of subgrade work. And so in terms of reducing retaining walls and groundwork could save some resources. Also looking at other materials and configurations of design. That's about all the information that we have without further analysis and design work. The commitment, what I can share with you is that the commitments that we provide to voters about a gun range on site, about having adequate laydown space for our public works equipment, all of that would be unchanged under either scenario. That is our commitment that we're making. So we would find ways to value engineer while preserving what we've been telling voters, what we've been, the messages we've been testing, and we would try to find ways to work within the budget that the council helps define for us.
Council President Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. And my question was similar to Councilor Robbins, but the response, Acting City Manager Trich, it begs the question, why is the benefit of having it, in the ground with the retaining walls? Clearly, there had to be tremendous thought that was important. So what would we be losing by not doing that?
I'm afraid it's difficult for me to answer. A lot of the design elements are trying to make the best use of the space available in order to deliver on the dimensions and the targets identified by our customers in police and public works. So to address the needs of today as well as our city needs grow, so future growth. In terms of planning for design, there was consideration of subgrade features. You will recall at a previous presentation, our consultants talked about a subgrade gun range, for example. By pulling that gun range out of the ground, it still would be an insulated, protected gun range, soundproofed, and obviously a safe space for that to happen. Pulling that out of the ground saves money, but it does also, there's a trade-off in terms of the space available for other features like vehicle movement and so on. So these are sort of the trade-offs that we're always reckoning with. With this in mind, we did talk with our design team, and they are a very agile group. We are committed to making things work. Some of the features, we have resilience elements. We'd like to keep solar design. We'd like to keep all of the parking that we had envisioned, things like this. We'd like to maintain that because we think that future-proofs that prepares us for the, for example, additional team members to our police force, for example, as our city grows. That allows us to build for the future. However, as I've said, we will maintain our commitments.
Thank you. All right, so no questions. I I assume you want some directions on this, which way we would like to go, or, well, let's see, Councilor Anderson, do you have any thought? Would you want to keep it at 150 million, or you want to keep it at 930 a month for average homeowner? So don't want to put you on the spot if you're not ready to.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm okay with 150 million. I don't think the 7-8 cents is going to be a big, as long as we keep it under $1, right, people, that's a big threshold. So explain these rates. These aren't like a mortgage where you lock in a rate when you make a purchase, right? They'll go up and down.
That is correct. So, so when we issue municipal debt, that goes into the open market for purchase. And so at the time of issuance, we are locking in a rate. But right now, we're not able to lock in a rate at this time before we actually are able to issue the debt.
So would that lock be for the full 30 years?
Correct.
Okay.
Youth Councilor Heller, do you have any question or comment?
I'm just curious, do you think that if we move to 130 million, we would increase support of the measure, like from people from, what were they called, targets?
That's a great question, Youth Counselor. Potentially, we would see additional support. The challenge is, we've been talking about this project as a $150 million project. It's possible that there could be elements that we could consider phasing in at a later date. The appeal of having a fully functional, ready-to-go public safety facility with all emergency operations potential ready on day one is really appealing, and my sense is voters appreciate that as well.
I think I'd stay, and I would think I would sit in support of 150 million then.
Councilor Gudusi.
Thank you, Mayor. If it wouldn't significantly diminish everything that's being built, I would like the 130, but I'm supportive of the 150 if that's what the majority wants.
Thank you. Councilor Shah?
Support of the 150, just because we've talked about delivering a project that meets today's standards, but also builds for the future. And if we are at the 130 million, we're not building for the future. And so I would like to set the city and future councils up for success. So I would say we should stay at the 150. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Wolf.
This might be a strange request, but Chief McDonald, would you come up for a second? You have invested so much passion, time, and energy in creating this project, and I have no doubt that you all have been very thoughtful about the cost. And so just share your perspective with us, what that means and what some of these potential changes reflect to you. And I just think it would enlighten the council as we make these decisions. So thank you.
Sure. I guess my biggest concern about changing what our focus has been to this point is not being able to deliver a facility that meets the growing needs of this community and the departments that are going to occupy those spaces for what we expect to be 30, 40, maybe 50 years. Reducing the scope could change a lot of the things that we've already been talking about in addition to that growth. But, we've talked about things that I mentioned, like evidence storage, training space on site. Those are likely to be the spaces that will be shrinking and reducing, which will cramp us moving forward. And like you said, setting up future councils for success and being able to look back on this as a really innovative and forward-thinking project. So that's my concern with clamping it and restricting it. And I get the concern about the increased costs, obviously. I think you all know I'm very, very conservative when it comes to money, and I don't look at spending dollars recklessly. I'm very thoughtful and intentional about it. You could talk to the project team. I think I drive them a little crazy with my questions about that, but I do think it's important to keep those things in mind as we're making these decisions moving forward as to what's the best step to take as we're looking at a project. And it's a huge undertaking, but what I can say is that we have been able to find pieces and places to save along the way. And it is challenging that the bond environment has gotten a little more choppy at the moment, but I do think that we have an excellent project that we've been working on, and it really could serve the needs of this community for a very, very long time.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I don't want to be the short-sighted council. And we've heard that feedback. Are you planning for futures and the decades in the future, so you're not coming back to voters? So I don't want to do this without thought. So I support staying with the 150 and moving forward. Thank you.
Councillor Schlack.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank Eric and the team for preparing these alternatives to consider. And I think it's just really important to consider sort of the direction of travel here. We're not approving the millage rate, we're approving the bond amount rate, and the millage rate, as has been discussed, could change depending on market volatility. So I think while I appreciate the thought experiment of trying to reverse engineer it, I would be concerned about trying to make decisions off of that personally. So I support continuing with 150 million. That's what we've been communicating for over a year now. That's what we've done all our polling on for over a year now. And we've been communicating that this will be an additional $9 to $15 more per month for residents for a while now. This is still within that range. So I think we're still on track in terms of the amount that we want to have and the impact it would have on the pocketbooks of our residents and the value they would get out of it. So stay the course.
Councillor Robbins, do you agree?
I do. I
Okay.
agree.
All right. I agree as well. And for all the reason that all the councillors stated very eloquently. And for me personally, I think part of being on the council is to look for the future and plan for the future, right? When I went to the League of Oregon City meeting last year, yeah, I believe I was in the presentation with Council President Wolf and Councilor Gadusi. The presenter pointed out that there's a town somewhere on the riverfront that's a public space, and there's a plaque there say that the city council dedicated this space for the public 100 years ago, and now it's wildly popular, enjoyed by all the community members, so they can go picnic and have a good time, in public river, by the river, and that's long-term planning. So I do not want to fall short of the city. I do believe we have a strong project, and this is exactly what we need right now. So I strongly support we stay at $150 million. So it seems like the direction is pretty strong. So stay on course. So thank you, and let's hope the rate will drop by the time we're ready to issue if it passes. So thank you so much. All right, finally, last item on the agenda item is discussion of council involvement in city manager recruitment process. Human Resource Director Gomez and I will present this item, agenda item, seeking direction on how council would like to be included in this process. Good evening.
Good evening. It is on. For the record, my name is Laura Gomez. I'm the city's HR director. Thank you for having me here this evening and for this open discussion. So I am here this evening to discuss and receive direction from council on how involved you would like to be with the next city manager recruitment process, including selecting and identifying our recruitment firm.
All right, so I take over. Okay, so Councilor, our Human Resource Director Gomez forwarded to us a list of firms that she's been, scouting out and having some communication with, and we also have their, I guess, resume in front of us. So hopefully you have a chance to thoroughly review them and research them and think about how comfortable you are with, well, let's break down. The first question is, are you comfortable with moving forward with one of the firm already identified? Or would you prefer that we cast a wider net and invite additional firm to participate in a more thorough formal RFP or recruitment process? So I don't want the name of the firm right now, but just raise your hand if you would like cast a wider net. Go ahead, Council President.
So first, thank you so much, Laura. You did a lot of work, or you and Caesar. I mean, the depth of information, just really greatly appreciate it. So I just wanted to say thanks. So my question is, what would we actually gain from an RFP process that wasn't, I mean, if you're interested in doing searches, et cetera, it seems like you'd be paid attention to what we're doing. So I'm just curious what the both of you think would be the value of even doing an RFP, given what you've already collected.
I'm not sure there would be a much larger difference. I know that an RFP, a formal RFP, will actually take a little bit more time. And it's not necessary for this getting confirmation from our finance director, Kang, that we wouldn't have to do that. But we have looked through Google and by reference and historical value in saying, hey, we've received information ourselves from different recruiting firms, and also just from our neighbors and from some of our network within the industry here with the different sister cities. I think we would probably get about the same. And so casting that net, we threw that out, and it's taken this long, and out of the 10 or 12 that we have, that's what we've received so far. And so before taking the next step of actually doing reference checks and identifying who locally would recommend them, this is why we're here this evening. I didn't want to go to the next step without making sure that we included your questions and making sure that we're identifying your priorities and identifying the right recruitment firm, which will save us time here instead of the formal RFP process.
Any question on the RFP or? All right, so anybody who would like to cast a wider net, raise your hand. Seeing none, so that's one question
That's
answer,
one.
so great. So are you comfortable with selecting a firm tonight, or would you, no? Okay, would you like to have what would you like the process to be like? You want a subcommittee? Are you comfortable with subcommittee, or would you like to have another council meeting where we decide collectively? Councilor Shah said, no, we don't want another council meeting. So anybody prefer subcommittee just for selecting the firm? That would be 3 council members. Go ahead, Council President Wolf.
My hand is up not for saying yes or no. My point is, I would really like, even if we narrow down, we are interested in 2 or 3, that counselors would be my preference, call the references, speak with counselors or mayors that have been part of an interview process using one of the firms that we are choosing. So I would volunteer to do that. I'm not trying to create a subcommittee, but it's something that I care a lot about. And I'd like to see counselors having those conversations with other electeds.
Right,
So that's my pitch.
Well, that sounds like a subcommittee.
Well, I suppose it is. But I don't know that anyone else has,
Councilor Schlack.
enthusiasm.
I mean, I'm not comfortable with choosing a firm tonight.
Okay.
But I also recognize that coming back for another council meeting would delay this
Right.
For quite some time. So if the subcommittee is the only alternative that is viable, that would keep us sort of on track with the timeline the council wants, then I would support it with the request that I also be on it.
Okay. Councilor Robbins.
I also would feel very uncomfortable picking something tonight. It feels almost like it would just kind of be shooting a dart at the board and picking. I like the idea of calling or being on a subcommittee. Also being able to maybe talk to the companies themselves.
Yeah,
When
that's
I've done
part-
RFPs in the past, we have interviewed, had like question and answers with people. I don't know that we need to do a formal RFP if the finance people and legal people say it's okay
No,
not
we already
to.
determined we're not doing that, so.
Okay.
All right, anybody? Councilor Badusi.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually did a lot of digging of each of these, and I was quite excited that GMP specifically is currently actively recruiting for Wilsonville's city manager. And I felt that with having that pool, it would actually increase our pool as well. So not just with the success that they've had before, but looking at what they are currently doing, if we were to move quickly, then we could take advantage of that as well.
Yeah, I also like GMP and Portman, but we only have 2 votes. So Councillor Shaw, what's the approach you'd like to take?
I'm willing to support if there's a request or nominations for the subcommittee by the 3 councilors. I quite frankly think Human Resources Director Gomez and her staff could pick. They're the professionals. I'm confident they could. I too reviewed them, and I agree with you, Councilor Gadusi, the convenience of having a consultant who's also working locally. But again, I think you are an expert and could pick that and move the process along.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
I'm okay with the subcommittee. If
Okay.
you want to do that. That's
All right. Youth Councillor?
I think subcommittee.
Okay, so it will be Councillor Robin, Councillor Schlag, and anybody else other than Council President Wolf? Wow, she said she's okay not being on it, but she's passionate about it, so okay. So it's okay that these 3 councillors be on the subcommittee for picking the search firm?
If we do that, can we put a time?
Yeah.
So we're not delaying the process, slowing the process down. I know, Council President, you would not be doing that, but just in the past, that has happened, and I'd want to make sure we don't go down that road again. But I know you all 3 are very committed to timeliness, so just, I felt better speaking and voicing that.
All right. So,
Willing to join as well, although that may offset the number.
yeah, that would be a quorum, so.
All right.
yeah, sorry. But both of us like GMP, so we can give them a hint. All right, so assuming we pick a search firm, next, do we also want a subcommittee to work closely with the staff and the consultant? Or do you want to talk about that tonight? I just want to expedite the process, so go ahead, Councillor.
Elaborate on what you're asking about in terms of working close, or you or HR Director Gomez, what that scope of work would entail?
And thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question and the clarification. There's actually a draft scope of work that we provided for the prior recruitment process that includes the timeline and what we delegate, what we're expecting from the search firms, what we contract with them, also how they social network media outreach, the type of work that they're providing for us, the criteria for the position, the details for selecting. Then we also include how we're re-interviewing, which would be very similar to how we did in the past, and developing those questions and sharing them out as well. So that was work that we did in the past without a subcommittee, and I would imagine it's a pretty standard process at that point, but I want to ensure that you have the confidence and trust once we do select a firm that they would know what they're doing at this point to provide us with the excellent support, or at least excellent service in selecting the next city manager. So many different elements to that.
What would you want to decide later? Because you 3 will be picking the.
I mean,
You want to decide later? Okay, so now, so that's for now, that's for tonight. Let's just have 3 of you tasked with the subcommittee in selecting a search firm. And can you provide an update to us and in terms of timeline?
So I guess what I was hoping council would choose if it's 2 or 3.
Right.
And we take that direction and then go from there and make references. I didn't expect, if I'm understanding you, Mayor Hu, that we would pick the firms, but we would get direction tonight.
Okay.
Is that, I mean, we can do that, right?
But that would make things even faster, so.
Well, to
I'm ready.
Councilor Shaw's request.
Yeah,
I just want, it's references. That's what I care about.
Yeah, Councilor Gadusi and I are ready. So are you all ready to give the subcommittee directions on 2 or 3 firms that looks good to you, or?
Oh, you're not?
You're not?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay. No? You're not ready? Okay, so you just want to?
I would prefer that we look at, it's already narrowed down. We have a long list, but only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seem to have replied.
Right.
I feel like 5 is enough that
Good-
we
good
could
enough.
vet those
Okay.
5 and then say,
Quickly enough.
our top 3 choices are 1, 2, 3, and then we can vote. Would that be appropriate?
We don't
Or
need to
do you
vote,
want
right?
the subcommittee to
We don't need to
pick?
vote. That means another council meeting. That's the whole purpose of subcommittees, if we don't have a council meeting.
All right. But then I'd like to look at all 5 of them
Okay,
rather than.
all right. So all I ask is you, after you have a, hopefully quickly, a subcommittee meeting, provide the entire council with an update on the timeline and the next step. Go ahead, Councilor Schlack.
So I'm getting slightly confused now that we're starting to mix topics. So we are designating a subcommittee here. That subcommittee will meet. It will review the five or so different firms that we are considering. And based on our judgment, knowing the concerns that the rest of our colleagues have, we will provide the HR director with guidance on how we want to proceed. That is all that that subcommittee is doing. Then there's a separate question about whether we want to review the scope of work separately as a subcommittee and provide guidance on that on behalf of the council, as opposed to sending it to us in an email and just having individual counselors reply back on feedback. Is that the alternative that we could
That would be
pursue?
the alternative, right?
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with either one at that point. I mean, it's convenient if the 3 of us are meeting to provide feedback on that, but if this is just reviewing a document and sending feedback, that's not particularly labor intensive for most council members. So I'm good with either one. I just want to be clear about what we're considering.
Okay. Council President Wolf, do you understand? Did you get that?
So I just want to be clear that my fellow subcommittee members, my expectation is that we would be calling, obviously I've said it a million times, that we're calling references and having those conversations. We may or may not maybe call all 5, or we are calling all 5 and getting references. That's the expectation of the work. I just want to make sure that you both agree.
Expecting all 5. That was my expectation when I put my hand up.
And I would appreciate all 5. And when it comes to the second question, if we're looking at the scope, I wouldn't mind having a voice in that, so maybe we could just email. Okay.
Okay, so we only have the subcommittee for the selection. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to keep dragging this out, but as far as reviewing the scope of work, that's referring to what the recruitment firm is going to do, correct?
Partially, yes. And then your involvement within that, those different
I see,
phases of
yes.
the scope
Okay,
of work.
yeah, I think email for that. And I just want to clarify that while we do want to get this done, I don't want to feel like it needs to be rushed. I'm hearing a lot of hurry, 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 and I'm more than willing to work with a deadline, but this isn't, we've already struggled with this a lot, so I want to make sure we do it right, so.
Yeah, okay. So that's all we need tonight. All right.
So the clarification,
Yes,
so that
please.
I understand it clearly, is we will have a subcommittee with Councilors Robbins, Schlack, and Council President Wolf to interview and identify one of the recruitment firms. The subcommittee will then share that decision with the remaining council members. And then will we reconvene from that point of that and have a second subcommittee, or we let those next phases and steps of the scope of work occur by whomever you
It sounded like
direct?
we needed the subcommittee to review the scope of work.
Okay.
We would just do an email process.
Okay.
Yeah, one
that. Okay.
individual council member.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Everybody's clear on the same page? All right, so thank you so much,
All
Laura.
right, thank you.
Yeah, all right, so there being no further business, the meeting's adjourned. Good night, Tiger.